Welcome back to another episode of Queens Behind the Scenes, where we encourage women to lead, transform, and shine. And I'm the host, Charise Beckett. And before we begin today's conversation, I need to say this clearly. My book, P.O.I.S.E, the blueprint for escaping burnout, redefining success, and creating your new reality, will be dropping this Friday. So it's book release week, which is crazy, and that sentence still hits me in my chest. Wow. It probably always will, because I didn't write this book from theory. I didn't write it from a classroom. I didn't write it from a place of perfection. I wrote it from lived leadership, from pressure, from long nights, from real lessons, from every test that forced me to evolve, from a season of profound truth telling. This book is not just for women. It's for leaders. It's a framework. It's an ecosystem. It's coaching. It's a workbook. So like the book, this is a proof, but here it is. And the workbook, super excited, with all kinds of different exercises to help us be our best leadership self. It's for the high performers who want to lead without losing themselves. It's for anyone who's ever felt the weight of expectations and thought there has got to be a better way to do this. And there is, but it requires a bit of evolution, which I had to go through myself. It requires burying an outdated version of yourself that helped you survive and helped me survive. But we are walking into a season of poise. I'm going to leave it that there. We are walking into a season of poise. So today I'm taking you behind the scenes of that burial of that person, behind the scenes of my evolution, behind the scenes of the leader I had to release to become the leader I am now. And there is a lot that goes into this. And so I'm going to kind of go through every season of who I have been and who I had to bury to become who I am now, and working on who I want to be in the future. And, that's iterative. It changes based on the season. I'm not the same mother to my 27-year-old daughter today that I was when she was 5, right? It's iterative. So we'll go through some of my background. So we're going to start with the leader that was the people pleaser. That was the first version of me I had to bury. It was the people pleaser. And let me be honest, she arrived early. She was the child who didn't want anyone to be upset. That people pleaser, man. The teenager who tried to keep the peace, the young professional who made herself small so others could feel big, the woman who said yes before she even acknowledged her own no. Like, yeah, sure, I'm fine. And then I'm like, I don't really want to do that. The people pleaser version of me believed that if I could just be agreeable, I would be accepted. If I could just blend into the room, it would be a safe place. If I could just do everything right, no one would have a reason to critique me. But here's the truth. For me, anyway, people pleasing was self-abandonment dressed up as kindness. And I think I've said this before in previous shows, that women do have that societal expectation that we are kind, and I am kind, but kindness does not look like abandoning yourself. And I had to come to that conclusion. People pleasing is suppressing your needs so you can maintain harmony. It is shrinking yourself because you don't trust that you can take up space. It is agreeing to things because your fear of disappointing someone else more than you value being honest with yourself. And for me, that was where it sat, is like agreeing to things because people pleasing is all about disappointing other people, right? You don't want to disappoint people. But then in the instance of not disappointing them, you disappoint yourself. People love that version of me. I will say there are some people that really love the people pleasing version of Charise. She was convenient. She didn't challenge much. She really didn't disrupt anything. She didn't really need anything. But I did need things. And at some point I realized people weren't appreciating me and they were consuming me. And that version of me could not lead at a high level. She was too exhausted. She was too cautious, too invested in comfort instead of clarity, too invested in other people's happiness than her own. So I did have to bury her. And that people pleaser part of me started early and ended late, because I just am getting out of that. And sometimes it does feel uncomfortable. You're like, no, but I really don't want to do it. So I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. No is a complete sentence. So I had to bury that, and I'm still kind of covering that up. It's burial up, just like, that's over. I didn't bury her with resentment, though. It was with gratitude. She protected me when I didn't have the voice or the boundaries to protect myself, but she could not come with me into this next chapter. She was not gonna be able to be here. The other version, so that's the people pleaser version. One of the other harder parts for me to kind of bury was the overfunctioner. That version of me who worked like the world would end if I slowed down. Like I literally had to think to myself, am I a doctor? Nope. I'm not saving anyone's life. I mean, maybe with my words, but I'm not. She was intense. That girl was intense. She was unstoppable, which she still is, but she was three people stuffed into one job description. She believed the solution to any problem was, I can handle it. I'll do it. If someone dropped the ball, I picked it up. If someone slipped through, I caught it. If there was a gap, I filled it. And I did it. I did it flawlessly. Like I remember one of my old leaders was like, Charise doesn't drop balls. I took that as a compliment. Charise drops balls now because I can't carry them all. People praised this version of me. People depended on her. People knew that she was in the room. Crisis would be avoided. But there's that truth about overfunctioning. Overfunctioning feels like leadership, but it's literally actually fear. I wanted to pick it up because I was scared if I wasn't in the room, I would be bypassed for this. If I wasn't in the room, I would be bypassed for an opportunity, or people wouldn't see how hard I was working. And I needed to show people that. And let me tell you, that comes from a place of fear, but also little Black girls everywhere. If you have one, if you were one, we have this in our head sometimes because imposter syndrome, number one, is real, but you are inherently sometimes pushed out of places. So you feel like your value sits in those the validation that you are a hard worker, that you are this. Sometimes it sits with other people that don't even have your best interest at heart. So please tell your little girl, she is enough. She is brilliant, beautiful, smart. She does not need validation from the outside because you're going to give it to her anyway. That is a part of it, was the validation. The validation for me was a big thing. I remember the moment it hit me that I was, in overfunction, because it's, it looks like confidence. Overfunctioning is not confidence. It's survival mode in expensive shoes. It's not confidence. And I remember that moment that it hit me. I was doing the jobs of three people, carrying expectations that weren't mine, and burning out in silence, crying. And I realized they're not impressed. They're dependent. I already got dependence. I was creating more dependence. They weren't valuing me. They were using me. They weren't empowering me. They were offloading everything onto me. And that version of me, she was giving everyone else oxygen and suffocating. She was suffocating. That is not leadership. That is captivity. That is captivity. And I had to bury her too. I replaced her with boundaries, with strategy, with no being a complete sentence, with that's really not my role. And we can figure out how to get you some resources to help you, but the resource is not me. With I don't move like that anymore. I actually did have to tell a friend that one day. I was like, I'd love to help. I just don't move like that anymore. I'm not picking up these balls that are just not mine. I've got a lot going on over here in my world. And it's not being selfish because I would help anyone do anything pretty much. But I do want to see people help themselves. And I can't pick up everything. And that freed me. It really freed me. And it felt good to do so. It felt good to be free of that. And I still sometimes dip over there. Sometimes I'm like, and then I'm like, you know what? Let me reel it on in. I mean, today I dipped in there because my family and friends, we do this once a year tradition where we do these Christmas pop-up bars. And of course I was like, my girlfriend sent me one and I was like, okay, I'm going to book all of them. And I started and I did book 3. And then I was like, okay, this is what I got. And I know those ladies just appreciate me. These are women that love me. But I also was like, this is what I got. Anybody else got anything? Because the other part is that I'm not the only part of the plan. Like other people should feel the responsibility of and the need to want to chip in their idea to do stuff. It's not just about what I want. So that's another thing is like I had to release that control. What a freedom it is. What a freedom it is. And then the perfectionist. Woo, let me get on to hers. Okay. She was polished. She was poised in quotations. She was pristine. She delivered immaculate work. She stayed ahead. She worked harder than necessary to avoid even the smallest critique. And let me, again, Black women, because this is just true. We do have to work harder and smarter than anyone else. I don't give a shit what anybody says. I know this to be fact. I live it. It's my lived experience. It actually does happen because you do see like, oh shit, they are not putting forth not their effort. And I think Abby Phillips last week even said it on, I don't know what show it was, but like, I thought that hard work was going to get me. Hard work was what it took. Like hard work is it. It is not hard work. It's not just hard work. I mean, obviously work hard, but it's not just hard work. People don't tell you about the knowing this person and how nepotistic things can be and familial and all of those. You don't. So you just think your work is you're just going to outwork everybody. That's the perfectionist. You're just going to outwork everybody. Perfectionism is the most glamorous form of fear. It looks like excellence, but it feels like anxiety. And I know because I have literal anxiety. It looks like readiness, but it feels like pressure. It looks responsible, but it feels punishing in a way. Perfectionists don't release, they revise. Perfectionists don't rest, they rehearse. Perfectionists don't trust, they control. But leadership is not precision engineering. It's relational, dynamic, and human. I learned that perfect leaders aren't powerful. Present leaders are powerful. Say that again. Perfect leaders aren't powerful. Present leaders are. Leaders who can adapt, leaders who can listen, leaders who can innovate, leaders who can pivot without spiraling. So I buried the perfectionist because it wasn't serving me, and it definitely wasn't serving anybody around me. Respectfully, she taught me a lot, but she also kept me very small. She kept me afraid. She kept me from stepping into my creative power. She always has something, that's what I always say. This is like, with perfectionism, she has self-trust, abandoned self-trust, abandoned discernment, abandoned emotional stamina and alignment. And I couldn't do that to myself. I needed my self-trust. I needed my discernment. I needed my emotional stamina, and I needed alignment. And so I had to let the perfectionist go. And I did it. I traded it for precision. That's what that P stands for in P.O.I.S E. Precision, not perfection. We ain't practicing any perfection over here. We're practicing, where's the target at? How can we hit it smarter? How can we hit that? How can we be precise about that target in a smarter way, not a perfect way? But I will say, out of all of that, there came a grief in my evolution. And there still is a little bit of a grief there, right? Because grief is required to grow. And I'm learning that. And I'm sitting in that. And it is it is exciting, but it can be painful because what happens with grief? Letting parts of yourself go, letting people that in your life go sometimes. You don't just release habits, you release identities of yourself. I told you all of these identities all of these things I identified with: perfectionism, right? People pleasing, overachieving, and over functioning. So you outgrow those identities. You don't just stop people pleasing, you stop being who people expected you to be. You don't outgrow roles, you outgrow relationships. You don't just stop over functioning. You face the truth that you were avoiding vulnerability by being indispensable. Growth feels like loss before it feels like liberation, for sure. For me, it did. And I want to say that again, you face the truth that you were avoiding vulnerability by trying to be indispensable. You will mourn the version of yourself that overperformed. You will mourn, I mourned the version of myself that didn't know better, the version of myself that kept people comfortable. I mourned the version of myself that had no boundaries. I mourned the version of myself that solved everything alone. I mourned the version of myself that thought struggle was the price of success. You don't just evolve, you do grieve. It is a process, because in the space between who you were and who you're becoming, you're kind of floating. Like that hairstyle, any woman knows it. Has anybody out there ever had a pixie and then you were trying to grow a bob? That shit is painful. That is a grieving process right there. I've had a pixie before and been trying to grow up. I mean, you go from this like cute pixie, and then there's like all this hair in the back that's coming down here, but this is still short. It's painful as hell. That is what I equated to, is the in-between the evolution. The in-between of the evolution is a pixie to bob. That's some shit. And every woman who's ever had one knows that's some shit. Because in that space between who you were and who you're becoming, you're just floating. You're unanchored, you're adjusting, you're kind of redefining and refining. And that space is so uncomfortable, but it is definitely necessary because you're not going to get that fucking bob if you don't outgrow that pixie. Because the evolution requires the release of the pixie, the release. So yeah, so that's what it is. So I'm anchored. I do feel more anchored now. And that's what allowed me to be able to write the book about leadership. And I want to talk about who the leader is now. Who's this leader behind the brand? I want to talk to you about what you don't see, because a lot of people don't see this. I have a podcast every week. I have some listeners gaining more weekly, but what people don't see, people do see, is composure sometimes, like the outcomes, the presence, the executive polish, the confidence. I don't have a shortage of that, but they don't see the weight. They don't see the nights that I've definitely cried quietly at my desk before I even had this desk. We were building a house and I didn't even have a place we lived in a townhouse and I didn't even have an office. I was kitchen tabling, crying after writing. They don't see the days I died or whether I could hold the level of responsibility like this level and still honor myself. People don't see the emotional labor of leading people who are struggling, or the mental gymnastics of navigating power dynamics while still staying aligned, or the pressure of having a voice in rooms that weren't built for your clarity. That's real. People see confidence. They don't see the courage. The courage of showing up when imposter syndrome is screaming, and trust me, I still get it. The courage is delivering clarity when silence would be safer, because listen, that girl wants that comfort still sometimes, to just be safe. Don't rock the boat. The courage of telling the truth when others would rather play politics. I don't have time for that. Like, let's be real. Let's stop playing these games. That was courage for me. The courage of leading ethically when nobody's watching. I'm trying to do the right thing. The courage of evolving publicly and privately at the same time. My biggest fear was to put myself out there. I feared failure. I feared failure. I feared it. And then I had to start thinking back about, I fear failure. How? I've started so many businesses that have failed. I used to spray tan white people. I cannot believe Caribbean Kiss. My girlfriends who are in Maryland, 2 white women that I love with all my heart, they did not know about this. And so I told them, they were like, wait a second, you spray tanned people? Yes, I had a spray tan business because I got laid off from my job, and I had a mobile spray tan business because I'm a damn hustler and I was going to figure out a way to take care of family. I did that. I had Affinity Resources, which is HR consulting, which, looking back now, I could have done so many things better. Like, my website was raggedy. I had all kinds of, literally, I've done training before, complete failure. So I don't understand what I was scared of, because what I did from all those things is I learned from them. No raggedy website, get your shit together. Brand really matters. Like, all of those things that came together. And I'm a cusser. I don't cuss on every show, but I do cuss. And so I will have that explicit thing on my show, but for today, I'm cussing today because I'm trying to lay it out raw for y'all. But yeah, I was thinking to myself, I was like, how the hell am I scared? And I spray tanned white people. No, you're not scared of failure, Charise. And writing this book did take courage. Every word required that bravery, that same bravery of that girl who said, I'm stepping out here and I'm opening up a mobile spray tanning business. Every chapter required that introspection into who I am, into my life. Every story required honesty. I had to be honest with myself and with other people. And doing this publicly has been so hard because I have always been afraid of failure in public. Like, I failed with those businesses, but I kind of quietly Homer Simpsoned into the bushes and came out with something better later, or different later. This time I have to do it all up front. And, I'm realizing that all of my brand is iterative. It can change. And I was so inflexible before. And that has taken courage for me, because this isn't a leadership book built in theory. It's built on experience. These are my experiences. So that fear behind the bold moves is real. And people assume fear shows up as trembling hands or avoidance, but the fear leaders feel is subtle. And it sounds like, will I be misunderstood? Will people take what I'm saying and twist it to be whatever and take a soundbite? Will they weaponize my clarity? I am clear, I am direct, and I do want things a certain way. Are people going to weaponize that? Will my boldness cost me access? Am I allowed to lead like this? What will this level of visibility demand from me? And I did have to start thinking about, like, especially, am I allowed to lead like that whole thing? And that's something that I talk about all the time. Like, I'm the leader. And because we are taught so many times that leadership shows up and looks a certain way. Professionalism looks a certain way. Professionalism doesn't have her shoulders out. Professionalism doesn't wear a short set suit. No, professionalism does. And a boss bitch does too. And I'm doing all of those things. And I had to realize, like, and I'm looking at all these amazing women and men around me who are showing up exactly as they are, and they are successful because they are being their authentic selves. They are not changing because some brand of leadership and professionalism was painted by people that really probably don't have shit in common with you at all anyway. My biggest fear, though, was not failure. Like I said, I failed plenty of times and I recovered each time. My biggest fear was being seen as brilliant and having to live up to it, right? Like, being seen as an author, as a brilliant woman, which I know that I am, but having to live up to that. Being seen as powerful and not being able to shrink back into safety. Being seen as a visionary and having to deliver at a higher standard. Being seen as a leader and not just a performer of leadership. Success will expose you. And I realized that, and that was a big fear of mine. Before it elevates you, it's going to reveal you. It shows your insecurities. It shows your unhealed parts. It shows your patterns. It shows your habits. It shows you the gap between who you've been and who you're becoming. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You cannot unsee it. And that is where the real fear is. That's where it was for me. And I'm here and I'm still afraid, like Friday, like these, like, and I didn't do this for money, but like, I'm like, oh my gosh, how's my book going to do? And how are things going to work out? And there's that fear of like, oh my gosh, publicly, I could literally be at the bottom of the barrel. But I'm like, get that shit out of your mind, Charise, because that's just not even who you are. And the reality of writing this book while living a full life was actually hard too. Because let's be honest about something. I did not write this book in ideal conditions. I'm going to be really honest. I didn't hide away in a cabin. I didn't take 6 months off work. I didn't write in some peaceful, curated environment. I wrote this book after meetings, on weekends, on planes, on early mornings after meditation, on nights when my brain was fried, having to go back in the morning and be like, what the hell was I talking about? During stressful seasons of building a home, being in between homes, moving states with a middle schooler who is having to learn new friends. It was managing a demanding executive role while supporting a family, navigating life, while leading teams, while building this brand. This book was written in the trenches of leadership. I got it up out the mud. I know that. And it was not on some balcony in Puerto Rico, as much as I do love Puerto Rico and a balcony in Puerto Rico. This was not born in that. And that's what makes this book so real. It wasn't. This book was for people who lead in real life. It was built in real life. It was written in real life for people who lead in real life, not some theory. People who are actually leading in real life with deadlines and politics and expectations and responsibilities and emotions and ambition. I didn't write a performance. I wrote a truth. Let's be clear. And the truth always lands because it always lives somewhere inside us already. So it was there. And, I take pride in that because that's where it all started. And I think that it's relatable. I want to talk about some of the moments that raised me. Leadership did not raise me. The moments inside leadership raised me. Moments where I was underestimated. And that has been, I am a good underdog because let me tell you something. Ain't nothing like being underestimated because that's my lick back usually. Not anymore. I really don't even care because like underestimate me. And my mom said, I can show you better than I can tell you. So like, go ahead. That's on you, whatever. But the moments that raised me were moments where the room didn't know who they were dealing with. The moments where I stayed composed when someone tried me, and they have tried me. Moments where I chose restraint over reaction. Those moments raised me. Moments where I stepped into visibility even when invisibility felt safer. And those moments that raised me were where someone thought they were talking to the old me, and I had to allow me to reintroduce myself to them, because I ain't that girl, I ain't that chick. So don't try me. There were moments where I stood up for myself in spaces that normalized disrespect. Those are the moments that raised me. The moments where I set boundaries that changed the dynamics forever. Those moments raised me. And moments where I realized I wasn't intimidated. I was evolving. I was evolving. Those moments raised me. Those moments shaped me as a leader and shaped my leadership. Those moments taught me that leadership is not about hierarchy. It's about self-mastery, right? And once you master you lead differently. You walk differently. You speak differently. Your swagger is different. You make decisions differently. You choose differently. You move like someone who knows their value without needing to prove it or needing anyone else's validation. And wow, it feels good. It feels good to finally be here, because what poise requires from me, we'll go deeper into the model of poise. Poise stands for precision, optimization, influence, strategy, and endurance. And it required a lot from me. Let's start with the model, like precision. Precision required me to stop being accessible to everything. I said it on a show before. I think Melissa Ford said it. I don't have to, be available for everything that's calling for me. Precision had me stop reacting, to stop treating chaos like a normal state of leadership. I'm not going to do that anymore. Y'all got keep your damn chaos. I'll sit over there and look at y'all like this. Precision forced me to focus on what actually moves the mission of any organization, of myself, of my brand, not the noise around it. Optimization, optimization demanded I stop working from urgency and start working from intention. I simplified my systems. I made my communication cleaner. I stopped doing tasks out of habit. That'll keep us somewhere. It's the habit of doing things. That's what optimization taught me. I rebuilt how I manage my time and my energy. It made me more powerful and more productive. Yeah, optimization. Influence required me to trust my voice, to stop softening my language, to speak with conviction, to embrace my presence, to understand the weight of my words. Influence is not about charisma. I know people always are like, you have charisma. It's about clarity. Be clear. I say this a lot. Be clear. People just want clarity. Let's move to the S in strategy. Strategy required me to elevate my thinking, to stop thinking what needs to be done today and start asking, what am I building for next year, next season, next chapter? Strategy transforms leaders into architects. And I will say that. I think I say it in the book. Endurance taught me sustainability. I no longer push myself to the edge. I'm not doing it. I'm tired. I am tired. And if I'm tired, I'm laying down. I'm taking a nap. I pace myself for longevity. I rest without guilt. I used to sit down and be like, oh my God, it feels like I need to be doing something. What? I did all of it. And what I haven't done, I have a plan. Why am I worried about that? I refuse to perform burnout. I refuse to accept exhaustion as the price of success. I think that's BS. Poise didn't just change how I live, it changed how I lived. And being able to gift that to others is so important, because I'm doing what I like to do and what I think is helpful in the world. I'm walking into what I'm supposed to be doing and what I look at as my calling, and it's to help leaders lead better, lead differently. The identity shift happens. So everything in life changes when your identity changes. We know that. When you stop seeing yourself as the fixer, the overachiever, the rescuer, the responsible one, the overperformer, the perfectionist, the reliable machine, and instead you see yourself as a strategist, a visionary, a leader, a builder, a creator, a boundary setter, a person with needs, limits, and purpose, your entire leadership will change and shift. Identity comes first, behavior comes next, sustainability comes. I did shift my identity and everything around me shifted with it. So who am I now? I'm an author. But outside of being an author and an executive and a leadership coach, an executive coach, and a developer of an assessment, a psychometric assessment with a data scientist, who am I now? Let me tell you who I am. Now I am intentionally, unapologetically, and clearly a leader. I am a leader who no longer overfunctions. I am a leader who trusts my instincts. I'm a leader who makes decisions with clarity, not pressure. I am a leader who protects my peace like an asset. I am a leader who doesn't explain my boundaries. I enforce them. I'm a leader who knows my worth without needing anybody else to validate it. I'm a leader who is grounded, not rushed. I'm a leader who is strategic, not reactive. I am a leader who chooses alignment and not approval. I am a leader who has something the kids truly cannot afford. I am here for it. There's self-trust in it. There's stillness. I now am a person with wisdom and discipline and a purpose that cannot be bought or borrowed. This version of me is not a coincidence. She is a result of intention and of clarity. And I could not be prouder of myself of those boundaries, of the evolution, of the burial and the rebirth. So I am super excited about that. So everything I've experienced, endured, survived, transformed, brought me here to this moment, the moment with clarity, the message, the book. And my purpose really is simple. It's my purpose in what I want to fulfill in my career is to help leaders lead without losing themselves, to help high performers operate with clarity, not chaos, to help ambitious humans pursue excellence without exhaustion, and to help people redefine success in a way that honors their humanity, not just productivity, honors them as a person, to help people redefine success and professionalism in a way that honors their person, honors their family, that honors who they are, not what somebody else told you success and professionalism is supposed to look like. That is what poise is. That's what poise is. It is not a concept. It is not just a framework. It is a brand. It is not just a brand aesthetic. It is a way of leading, a way of living, and a way of protecting the person. I can encourage more leaders to step into their poise. So here we are. Full circle moment. Poise will be officially into the ethos, into the world on November 21st. And I couldn't be happier. It drops on Amazon, and the audiobook and the workbook come out in December. The workbook will be December 5th. December 5th. So book November 20th. Workbook December 5th, audiobook. We're still working with Audible on that, but this is an exciting moment in time. I know I say exciting a lot. It's one of those things. Somebody said, you say exciting a lot. You should stop. To that, I say, I don't give a shit what you think. I am excited. So there's that. This book is my offering, my truth, my leadership philosophy, my lived experience, my clarity, my healing, my strategy, my evolution. It is more than pages. It is a blueprint, and I want to share it with all of you, for leaders, for teams, for executives, for entrepreneurs, for those high performers, for anyone ready to evolve with intention. I hope you read it slowly. I hope you see yourself in those words. I hope it challenges you. I hope it frees you. I hope it gives you the courage to bury the version of yourself that can't come with you. And I hope it guides you into being the leader that you are becoming. Thank you for listening. Thank you for witnessing my evolution. Thank you for supporting this moment and this podcast and my book and everything that I'm doing. This is Poise, baby. This is leadership. This is clarity. This is the new standard. And this is only the beginning.